Alrighty, so this is a more than annoying video that I really didn't think I would ever have to make. I guess it's just not really surprising. From the title, that Gadsden flag versus my neighbor. So I've been living in the same house, in the city for 8 years now. Same neighbors. There's a older, black couple. So they were the type that actually we moved in and they brought us a fruit basket. Very old school, which is nice. And my neighbors randomly helped me come out and mow the lawn a few times, like the front and stuff. I've never asked for help. He just came over and did it. I So if you are looking at out my front to my front yard, his house is on the right. No fences or anything. So he I've had a Gadsden flag, a big old 3x5 on a flagpole mounted to the edge of my house, which coincidentally was closest to him. Big old thing. And it was there for almost 6 months, and then we got like a massive storm. And I mounted it with my own screws instead of using the 1 inch screws. I went and got 3.5 inch screws, and this wind just tore that bracket off the wall. So I never got around to putting it back up. However, I did go and get a garden flag. So you don't know what a garden flag is. It hangs vertically on a holder, the size of a dish towel. There you go. And I put it in front, and like basically in my front yard, I have a big old tree. My wife made a stone around it where we have flowers, so I popped it in there. Now, it was on, if you will, their side where they could see it, from their house. And I only did that because the tree is not in the center of my house, and putting the flag on that side of the tree put it more towards the center of my house, and I'm kind of OCD about that. Like, I didn't want it just pretty much right next to my driveway. So it sat there for about 3 weeks, no issues. And then yesterday, we were outside, kids running around just enjoying the day. And the wife, comes over. And at first I thought she was going to yell at us because our kids get crazy, and whenever they start running around, they go in big loops, and they went in their yard. And I know she's come out freaked out whenever they even looked at some of her flowers. So I thought she was going to yell at us about them being in their lawn. But nope, she comes out and she asks, "Is that flag meant for us?" And now I've read up on the stories about, because I know that flag, there's an issue with a guy who had a hat, and an employee complained about it. The EOC got involved, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Like, I knew about that, and some of the mainstream media and stuff spinning the Gadsden flag as a racist, like a hate symbol. But it didn't click at that moment. So I just kind of looked at her and I was like, no, and I stupidly asked if it blew off the holder, which is insane because it twists around, and it's a pain in the ass to even thread it on. And she went on a spiel about how it was offensive to them, and it was offensive to some of the people that they have over. So, and I debated on it, and I decided that I didn't want to give a 10-minute history lesson on the Gadsden flag. So I just told her, I'm sorry it offends you. You know, have a nice day. Like I made no apologies for the flag. Like, I am sorry it offends her, but it's not my problem. If you're offended, you need to find a way to cope with that. It's not my job to walk around not offending everybody. And by the way, I wear this hat all the time with this patch on it. That's the flag, in case nobody knew what the heck I'm talking about with the Gadsden flag. All the time, I have this patch on. Sometimes I'll switch it up. Where, like, I don't know, an American flag patch or something. But usually it's that. And like I said, they never complained about the big flag either. So, my wife figures, and I agree, that one of the people they had over recently, obviously, educated them on the meaning behind the symbol, and that's why she's offended, even though she said she did her research and she knows the history of it. And I'm like, well, if you know the history of it, then you know why it's not offensive, unless you are just being okay with being a ward of the state, essentially. I mean, I know the Second Amendment, that's why I supported the Second Amendment, and gun guys and stuff have kind of adopted it to the pro-Second Amendment movement. And it makes sense, just like the message to the British it was, like, we have weapons, we have a small navy, enough to defend ourselves, but we're not going to come attack you. We segregated, we left, leave us alone, and everything will be fine. But if you step on us and you come over and you try to take our stuff, take over, force rules, any of that, you're gonna have a fight. So, and that's why, like, I really like how the Second Amendment adopted it, because it's the same thing. Although infringement still happens all the time. Regardless, not the point. And I told her, I was just like, it's just a pro Second Amendment flag now. And kind of give a brief, like, I was just like, it just supports independence, being left alone. Like, just leave me alone, let me live my life, because I'm not hurting you. And if I'm not hurting you, then you don't have any business coming and, getting involved in anybody else's life, government, whatever. And so I didn't make any concessions. I didn't tell her I was going to take it down, move it, anything. So she went back inside. And then, so my wife is not happy with the whole situation. She's terrified that, they're going to do something. And so we come back inside, and it's 7:30 or so at this point. My wife had left, taking one of my sons to Boy Scouts, and my neighbor knocks on the front door. It's the husband, and at this point, like, it was enough time that I was just thinking about the whole thing. I was just getting more and more riled up. So then he comes, knocks on the door, and I'm already like, I'm here. I've had it, because I know what this is about. And so, he doesn't ask me right away if I can take down the flag. And I kind of lost my temper with him. And my argument, because the whole argument with the Gadsden flag, the whole spin that the media put on it, and the whole thing that there's a black employee And then there was a white employee that had a Gadsden flag hat, and black employee complained about it, and it was this whole thing and went to Supreme Court. So, Colonel Christopher Gadsden made the flag, designed it, flew it on Hopkins' flagship. And that was it. It was just, it was a standard. You know, kind of back in the day, whenever you'd have like a standard bearer for each lord and stuff like that, it was just a flag representing that. I mean, most people had their own at that time, and because remember, this is before the Betsy Ross flag, the colony flag, anything. Like, everybody was just kind of doing their own thing. And the snake, the whole coiled rattlesnake was just adopted from Benjamin Franklin's Unite or Die, chopped up snake. And so I explained all that to my neighbor, that it's not a symbol of hate, it's a symbol of wanting to be left alone, ironically. And the whole thing of, Gadsden had slaves. I don't remember off the top of my head what year it was, but we were still getting into confrontations with Britain and the British. So obviously slavery was still a thing. It wasn't even close to being, abolished. And, it's like, yes, slavery is wrong. But it wasn't then. And my argument, whenever I started to get really heated, was if you're so against, like, this flag was made in a time that there was slavery, ergo, the flag represents slavery. Like, it's such a fallacy of logic that it just blows my mind. So I was telling my neighbor, I was just like, by that logic, you shouldn't use money. Because we have Washington and Jefferson had hundreds of slaves. It was the time period. Not saying it's right, it was wrong, but it's just how it was. So I was like, well, you shouldn't use money then. I've had that argument with atheists, like the hardcore atheists that are just like, arg. Then you shouldn't use money, because it says, in God we trust. It mentions God. Oh no. Well, then you don't get to use money then. And that was my argument, and he just he asked if I could move it to the other side of the tree so that they wouldn't see it. And at that point, and I felt dirty doing it, but I did move the flag over. And it just felt wrong. Like, why do I have to move a flag? Or, we have a statue of the Virgin Mary in our front yard. So if they were, hardcore atheists or, Islamists or, anybody who just straight up hates the Christian Catholic religion, would they complain about that? And it's like, and I wouldn't move that. It's like, so why am I giving into this? And it was more of a, pick your battle type thing. I get that. It was, but man, I was so mad, because I don't handle ignorance well. Whenever it's something that I'm knowledgeable about, relatively, and I explain stuff to people, and they just don't listen. And it's like giving advice to people, and it's solid sound advice, and then they just shrug and just walk away and just do the exact opposite of what you advised them to do, and then they end up, catching on fire and tumbling down a cliff, and it's like, well, I told you so. It's like that, where I can inform people, teach people all the time, cite sources, all that. And they just don't care because the media said it was bad. And since they are older, and that's the problem, a lot of the older generation, like they have grandkids that are 10, 13-ish, so they're older, they're both retired. And most of the older crowd tend to really believe the media, and they have a lot of faith in them, which they weren't always like corrupt idiots that don't do any kind of journalistic efforts to discover truth. They just pick a narrative and run with it. They don't wait for facts or anything. So, and that's a more recent development the last decade or two. So I get why they would just trust anything that they saw in the news. I fault people for that, but I don't really hold it against them. I just try and teach them that if you see something on the news, if you see an article on online, on Facebook, just research it yourself. Use multiple sources. Multiple keywords. Like try and get, use different browsers. Like don't just Google it. Yahoo it, DuckDuckGo it. Like, I have a VPN. I would just bounce around different, like countries and stuff. I would try and get every viewpoint I could before I made a decision on what my thoughts were going to be on something. And I try and tell people that, and people don't want to do it because it's not hard. It's time consuming. I do it all on the computer, and then I just have a Word document open, and I'm just like, it's like doing a book report or, just a research report is essentially what I'm doing anytime I find something that I really want to dive into. And I wish more people would do that, especially the younger generation that seem to have the real loud, big voices on both sides, on every issue. Like, there just needs to be more research done by everybody. Politicians, journalists, voters, everybody just needs to, it's like somebody has a sign out in their front yard that says, vote yes on issue 4, and your brain just goes, okay. Like, you don't even know what issue 4 is. And people are just like, well, I saw more signs that said vote yes than no, so I'll just go with that. Like, that's a terrible way of doing things, and I feel like that's what everybody's doing now. But this is kind of off topic, totally, tangent. Try to reel that back in. But yeah, so I just wonder if they would complain, and I'll probably have to go apologize to my neighbor, at least the husband, because I did kind of raise my voice and I got kind of angry with him. And I want to apologize for that because I was just extremely frustrated, and explain to him that I don't handle ignorance well, and I wish people do more research. I moved the flag, and then my wife moved it like all the way up. We have another garden bed that's like right next to our front door, so she moved it up there. So I'm like, fine. Now it's completely like there's a hedge there. It's behind the hedge. There's no way they can see it. Like you would see it if you came down the road and went to pull in the driveway. But I was just like, I know they don't care, because the big one I had hanging up was there for half a year. And I told him that. I was just like, I had the big one up all that time, and nobody said anything. And now all of a sudden I have this small one out there that, and I just wanted it up closer because it was closer to the road. I wanted people to read it. I wanted people to know that this is what I support. And I know that's a dangerous thing to do in today's day and age, is like just throw your, opinions out there. But it's your right. It's your First Amendment right. You can go out there and you speak your opinion. You can come over to your neighbor's house and you can complain about something in their yard. That is more power to you. And he even admitted, he was like, I can't control what you put in your yard. And and then he just asked if I could just move to the other side of the tree. And I'm like, fine. But I know they don't care. Somebody they had over at some point, whether it be family, friends, somebody was more politically minded and convinced them that it was a hate symbol. And so at some point I will have to apologize to him, because I'm pretty sure that that's the case. And it's not really their beliefs, and they're just doing it for whoever was coming over, is coming over, whatever. So, on that note, I do want to know, I kind of want to get a thin blue line garden flag and put it out there right where the original one was, on, that of the other side of the tree, and see if they complain about it. I'm the kind of person where it's just it was something like this, I do want to essentially test my limits. I want to see where they stand. Or I could just ask him, whatever, I apologize. Which would probably be the more sane option. But, so yeah, I mean, I wanted to, I've already vented to a couple people, but it's still just, it just riles me. And I was so angry that I put my plate carrier on. Mind you, I just had ankle surgery. I'm walking in a cast. I put my plate carrier on, 40 pounds all in all, and I just started doing laps around my property. And for 20 minutes, I just walked in circles. It just really irked me. And and I know some people be like, over a flag. They just had you move the flag. Why are you getting so angry? And it's because your ignorance is encroaching on my life and liberty and property. It's not just, and I explain it that if I'm reading an article or watching a video or reading a negative comment about, gun rights or the Gadsden flag in particular, if you want to do it, I can click off that. I can close down my computer and walk away. I can't walk away from this other than moving or giving in. And I'm not a giving in type person, and I think that's why I was so mad, because I did give ground and I compromised, and I don't want to say I'm not a compromising kind of person, but on this issue, it's my property. It doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't mean what you think it means. So why do I have to compromise on this whenever you're the one being offended? If it offends you so much, then you should find the money and you should throw up a privacy fence so you don't have to see it. But, I moved it to, and then it got moved again, so it's as far away from them, as possible. But it's just very, it was one of those, I never thought it would happen to me. I never thought I would get into a Second Amendment argument with anybody. I really didn't. I'll have discussions online with people, and, I never thought I would find somebody that I had to educate. It's just, people don't talk to each other like they used to. So, but yeah, that's my video. I'll probably do a review of my plate carrier setup, so you guys can see it. I actually want advice and tips and stuff on it. So whenever I do the review on my plate carrier, I want comments, I want criticisms. I don't mind criticisms as long as they're constructive and helpful. So, but that's my video, guys. Just let me know what you think of the situation. Am I right to be this upset? I do think I am, but obviously that's me. I'm slightly biased in that. So, yeah, let me know what you think of the situation and what you would have said or done differently. And I might update this after if I talk to my neighbor and if it's anything worth mentioning and stuff, I will do an updated video. See you guys later.